Welcome to Daily Life Pod, your source for daily inspiration and insights.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a book that holds a uniquely paradoxical place in the history of success literature.
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I mean, on one hand, it's this powerhouse of motivational principles. Millions of people credit it with, completely changing their lives.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, and this is the crazy part, serious historians will tell you it's basically a spectacular work of useful fiction built on a lifelong lie by a serial con artist.
It's the ultimate intellectual tightrope walk for anyone trying to learn from it.
Exactly. Our mission today is to figure out how a book that has sold, tens of millions of copies? A book that truly did propel entrepreneurs from nothing to millionaire status could be the product of the greatest self-help scammer of all time.
And we're not here to judge the man, necessarily.
No. We're here to judge the message and the context around that message.
Right. So this deep dive is all about pulling that tension apart. Yeah. We're going to explore the core philosophy that millions of people swear by. The power of thought, desire, all of that.
But we are also going to confront the historical truth, or the lack of truth, behind its creation. Our sources today are, a whole stack of historical analyses that pretty much debunk Hill's claims.
And we're putting those right alongside detailed summaries of the book's principles and a fascinating look at the actual published advice of the man who supposedly gave Hill the secret formula.
Andrew Carnegie.
The man himself, yeah. So you have to hold two things in your mind at all times here. First, the very real psychological impact of Hill's manifestation mindset.
And second, the practical, really grounded business advice of the real Andrew Carnegie.
By the end of this conversation, you won't just know the famous 13 principles, you'll understand the profound difference between thinking rich and working rich.
And crucially, why the results in both camps can be undeniably powerful.
So let's start where the book starts.
With the believers. Because if you just look at the sheer numbers and all the anecdotal evidence out there, the results are, they're very real for a lot of people. The whole foundation of this movement rests on this one central kind of radical premise, which Hill states as fact.
Thoughts are things.
Exactly.
That's the philosophical anchor. Hill asserts that every single human creation, from a skyscraper to a microchip, it all starts as this intangible thought impulse.
But just thinking isn't enough.
Not at all. For a thought to actually become a material reality, it needs two things: definiteness of purpose and persistence. The central promise of Think and Grow Rich is that achieving wealth starts, first and foremost, with a mental state, a state of mind.
And he says it requires little or no hard work in those early stages.
And the foundational initial stages of formulation, The hard work, he says, comes later in the execution. But the actual creation of the idea is purely mental.
Here's where it's really interesting for me, because Hill promises this comprehensive success, not just a financial one.
Right, it's holistic.
Yeah, he's always describing the riches as including peace of mind, an enjoyable and successful lifestyle, fulfilling relationships. He's selling a total life overhaul.
He is. He says money and material things are essential for, freedom of the body and mind. But the intangible riches are the real payoff. And this holistic approach is why the book resonates so deeply with so many people.
It's almost spiritual.
It is. It successfully merges the spiritual realm of the quasi-religious New Thought movement with the very material goals of the industrial age. Hill then condensed his whole philosophy into his famous 13 principles, or steps to riches.
And step one, the absolute starting point, is the non-negotiable principle of desire.
And he is so meticulous about what desire means. It is not a mere wish. He says, and I'm quoting here, "Wishing will not bring riches."
It has to be more than that.
It has to be transformed into a burning desire, a consuming obsession that is so intense, it becomes an almost uncontrollable source of energy. It's the starting point of all achievement, because that's where the emotional fuel comes from.
And then he immediately pairs that emotional fuel with this incredibly rigid structure.
That's the key. Hill's entire methodology is encapsulated in 6 definite practical steps to convert that abstract desire into a tangible financial equivalent. This is the fabled secret formula he supposedly got from Andrew Carnegie.
Let's break that 6-step protocol down, because this is where the theory gets hyper-specific and, it demands immediate discipline.
Yeah.
This is where the magic, if you will, starts to feel like a ritual.
Okay, so step 1. You must fix the exact amount of money you desire.
No vagueness.
Zero vagueness. It can't be a lot of money. It has to be a number.
Yeah.
$100,000. $500,000, $10 million. Step 2. You must select a definite date by which you intend to possess this money.
Again, an exact day, month, and year.
Exactly. Step 3 introduces the exchange principle, which is critical for making it feel grounded, not just like wishful thinking. You have to decide what service or commodity you're going to give in return for the money.
The retribution. It's like a contract with the universe. You get this money, but you have to provide this value in exchange.
Precisely. Step 4 is the action step. You must create a definite plan for carrying out your desire, and, crucially, you have to begin implementing that plan immediately.
Even if you don't feel ready?
Even if the plan feels incomplete or you don't feel entirely ready, the act of starting is non-negotiable.
And then steps 5 and 6 are where we shift fully into the realm of the subconscious mind and autosuggestion.
Right. Step 5 is writing a clear, concise statement that summarizes the first 4 points: the amount, the deadline, the service you'll offer, and the plan. That's your foundational text.
And step 6 is the daily ritual that weaponizes that text.
You must read the written statement aloud, twice daily, once before bed, and again right when you wake up. And as you read it, you have to truly see and feel yourself already in possession of the money.
So it's not just reading words on a page.
No, you have to visualize it. You have to smell it, touch it, internalize it.
That mental internalization, that brings us to his step 2, which is faith, and step 3, autosuggestion. If those 6 steps are the mechanics, then faith is the lubricant and autosuggestion is the transmission.
That's a great way to put it. Hill describes faith as the eternal elixir that gives life and power to the impulse of thought. It's the only known antidote for failure.
And he's not talking about just, thinking positively.
No, this isn't intellectual belief. It's absolute conviction. It's not, I think I can. It's, I know I can, with zero doubt. He argues that your ability to get rich is fundamentally limited only by the limiting thoughts you hold about yourself, and faith is what eliminates those.
And autosuggestion is the tool you use to force that faith into your subconscious.
It is. It's the constant self-administered stimuli reaching your mind through all 5 senses. By repeatedly and emotionally reading that statement you wrote, you are, in theory, bypassing your critical, doubting conscious mind and feeding orders directly to the subconscious.
And the subconscious, he argues, only acts on instructions that are emotionalized.
Exactly. They had to be handed over to it with real feeling. This is a direct echo of that new thought philosophy of the era, which championed the power of visualization and self-talk to materialize desires. For Hill, this whole process is how you develop money consciousness.
Okay, but hang on. How does Hill justify this idea of immediately believing you have the money when, you're staring at a half-empty bank account? Isn't that just delusion?
Well, that's where the next principles come in, and they're meant to link the mental work to the tangible world. Step 4 is specialized knowledge. Hill makes a crucial distinction here. He says general knowledge, like what you might get in a typical college education, is practically useless for accumulating wealth.
So he's not a fan of liberal arts then?
Not for making money. He says that specialized knowledge, intelligently organized and directed toward a definite goal that creates financial value. You have to ruthlessly focus on the knowledge specific to the service you plan to exchange for your wealth.
Which requires constant, ongoing learning.
Absolutely. He believed that the people who stop learning the minute they leave school are basically doomed to mediocrity. Specialized knowledge is the value you provide, the retribution from step 3, and you have to be improving it all the time.
Okay, so then the next key principle, step 5, is imagination. This seems like it's deeply connected to faith and autosuggestion, but how does he treat imagination differently?
He views imagination as the workshop of the mind. It's the crucial mechanism where desire is given form and substance, and he separates it into 2 types. First, there's synthetic imagination, which is just arranging old concepts, ideas, or plans into new combinations. This is important for organized planning. But the second, and he says far more powerful type, is creative imagination.
And creative imagination is where the philosophy takes a step into the truly mystical, right?
It really does. Hill claims creative imagination is the faculty through which the mind of man contacts infinite intelligence.
So,
God, the universe. He's vague, but yes. It's a part of the brain that receives hunches, inspiration, flashes of insight. And he says it only operates effectively when the conscious mind is intensely focused, usually through the mechanisms of desire, faith, and autosuggestion.
So he's telling you that if you follow the earlier steps, you're preparing your mind to receive, divine external guidance.
That's the promise.
That's a powerful selling point.
It provides tremendous psychological reinforcement. Then we move into the practical application. Step 6, organized planning. This is where the mental blueprint gets turned into specific action steps.
A goal is a dream with a deadline. That's his quote, isn't it?
That's the one. He instructs you to form a comprehensive plan, write it out, and then constantly refine it.
And once you have the plan, you need decision, which is step 7. This is the pivot point from planning to execution, and he stresses that rich people are notoriously decisive.
They are. Hill states that the man who succeeds must be a man who forms his own opinions and bases his decisions on facts, not on the opinions of others. Indecision is a universal habit of failure. Procrastination is its total opposite.
I think we all know people who get stuck in that planning phase,
Yeah.
always waiting for the perfect moment or one more piece of data.
And Hill's entire system says, act immediately, whether you're ready or not.
Which leads directly to step 8, persistence.
Exactly. The capacity to maintain effort despite failure, despite disappointment, despite discouragement. Hill calls persistence the quality that is to character what carbon is to steel. It's the essential hardening agent.
To give you some granular detail here, Hill actually listed 40 major causes of failure, and a huge number of them just revolve around a lack of persistence.
They do. When you look at that list, you see his focus on self-mastery. The most common causes of failure he lists are things like lack of a well-defined purpose, lack of ambition, failure to cooperate, intolerance, and, critically, the habit of drifting, just not following through.
He's demanding intense internal discipline, not just, good luck.
Not at all. And now we come to one of his most famous and influential principles, the mastermind, step 9. This is the social component of success.
Right, the mastermind. In modern terms, you can think of it as like an advisory board or a high-level accountability group or a think tank of successful peers.
It is, but Hill defines it in those deeply mystical terms we mentioned earlier. It's more than just a boardroom meeting. For him, it's the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people in a spirit of harmony, forming a spiritual energy affinity.
He's talking about a collective intelligence.
He is. He argues that when two minds coordinate harmoniously, the spiritual units of energy not only multiply the power of the group, but also constitute the psychic phase of the mastermind, a collective intelligence greater than the sum of its parts.
And this is where he brings in his biggest claim, the one we really have to hold up to scrutiny. Hill attributes Andrew Carnegie's entire fortune, all that colossal wealth from steel, to the power accumulated through his 50-man mastermind group.
That's the ultimate endorsement for the principle, and it's a massive foundational pillar for the entire book. The final steps, 10 through 13, are more abstract, but those first 9 are the action plan.
So we have this meticulously detailed, comprehensive 13-step framework that demands radical mental discipline, persistence, specialized knowledge, all allegedly gifted by the richest man in the world. And we have concrete, real-world testimonials of its success.
The evidence of its psychological power is overwhelming. I mean, look at the anecdote of Uncle Jim Needs You from one of the entrepreneur forums. This person was divorced, living in a decrepit 15-foot travel trailer, making minimum wage $10 an hour.
Rock bottom.
Absolute rock bottom. And he credits Think and Grow Rich with providing the essential kick in the ass that forced him into action and mental clarity. 8 years later, multiple rental homes, living comfortably, net worth over $1 million. He credits the book's psychological methodology entirely.
And it's not just about money either. We saw another powerful testimonial from someone named German M. Strag, who used the principles for profound personal recovery.
Yeah, that was incredible. They described a life just 2 years prior that was dominated by depression, alcohol, parties, drugs. And now they're healthy, they have a dog, they can hug their family, they wake up every day with a defined purpose.
They concluded that the book offers a new way of life, which suggests the real value is the imposition of discipline and definite purpose, not just manifesting money.
Right. And you see it everywhere. Multiple high-earning individuals, people consistently making over 7 figures a year, recommend this as the foundational text for achieving that success consciousness.
So it seems pretty indisputable that the philosophy works for a significant number of people.
It does.
However, we have to flip the coin now and address the enormous shadow cast over this book, the man who wrote it. We have to transition to the skeptical view and confront the historical critique head-on.
We must, because the controversy surrounding the book isn't about whether visualization works or not. It's about the integrity of its source material. The book's central origin story, that pivotal meeting with Andrew Carnegie in 1908, where he was given the assignment to codify the secret of success.
Yeah.
Well, it lacks all factual verification.
I find this just Astonishing. The entire ethical and authoritative weight of the book rests on that one meeting, and historians are pretty certain it never happened.
Andrew Carnegie's principal biographer, David Nasaw, stated it unequivocally. He said he found no evidence of any sort that Carnegie and Hill ever met.
Wow. So it's not like a single missing memo, it's nothing.
Zero. No correspondence, no photos, no mention in Carnegie's vast letters or journals, or in the records of his dozens of associates. Nothing.
And the timing of the claimed mentorship is even more damning for Hill. When he claimed he was getting this assignment from Carnegie, what was he actually doing in 1908?
Well, during that period, Hill was occupied with far less noble endeavors. He was spending much of 1908 on the run from the authorities.
On the run.
He was wanted in Alabama, facing charges for committing lumber fraud. He was selling timberland and property he didn't legally own.
That's a staggering contrast. So instead of sitting with the world's greatest industrialist learning the secrets of wealth, he was a fugitive facing felony charges for scams.
And that pattern of invention followed him. It's really critical to note that Hill didn't publish his account of meeting Carnegie or even start promoting this origin story until after Carnegie died in 1919.
Which is very convenient.
Very convenient. It allowed him to hide behind the authority of the deceased industrialist without fear of being contradicted.
I want to focus on his intentional use of authority, because he didn't just claim Carnegie. He dropped names like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, John D. Rockefeller, implying he had these deep relationships and interviews that formed the basis of his research.
He used those names as intellectual shields. Biographers have found no known records of him interviewing these men in any substantial way. Maybe a brief professional encounter with Edison, but that's it. He just invented conversations and relationships with prominent figures, often after they were dead, who were completely unaware of his existence.
That speaks to his fundamental view on truth, which his biographers detailed. He didn't seem to differentiate between fact and fiction if the fiction served a positive purpose.
Exactly. When Hill worked as a journalist earlier in his career, he admitted to simply making up news when he didn't have enough copy. And he genuinely believed there was no difference between a real conversation and an imagined conversation with a famous person if the imagined conversation was useful to the reader.
Wow.
For Hill, motivational utility trumped historical truth every single time.
That audacity is breathtaking. In a world that's so saturated with misinformation now, the idea that the foundation of the modern self-help industry is built on an admission of useful lies is, well, it's deeply unsettling, even if the result is positive action for some.
And the irony is further layered when you look at Hill's own personal financial reality. The man who codified the secrets to becoming rich rarely succeeded in becoming rich himself, at least not through the means he described.
He never became a lasting, self-made millionaire from business venture.
He did not. Throughout his life, he launched dozens of failed projects, training schools, magazines, business colleges. They all collapsed, leaving creditors in the lurch. He was even charged twice with embezzling charitable donations from fundraising efforts.
So he died poor. I have seen conflicting data on his net worth at his death.
Well, when you factor in inflation, his estate was certainly substantial. Some sources claim an adjusted net worth of over $8 million. But, and this is the key, that money was derived almost entirely from the royalties and sales of Think and Grow Rich and his earlier Law of Success series.
So he made his fortune selling the idea of success, not by actually executing the principles in the marketplace like Carnegie or Rockefeller had.
He got rich by selling the map, not by using it to find treasure himself.
Exactly.
And this dichotomy is what fuels the harsh modern critique we see in online forums, particularly among skeptical entrepreneurs who value, verifiable, actionable advice.
When you look at platforms like Entrepreneur, the dismissal of this book often boils down to that one cynical phrase: mental masturbation.
That phrase perfectly encapsulates the feeling of effort without application. Critics frequently label the whole philosophy as a bunch of wealth manifestation, metaphysical entrepreneur cult nonsense.
They say it's just 300 pages of saying the same shit in a different way. Just imagine that you are really rich and want it hard enough and it shall happen.
And the critic's main intellectual problem is the circular argument that Hill's philosophy creates, which makes it impossible to dislodge. It's completely insulated from failure.
Right. If you fail, it's not the formula that's flawed.
It's your lack of burning desire or your insufficient faith that failed. If you have the audacity to doubt the claims, well, you simply won't grow rich because all those who grew rich believed they'd grow rich. The failure itself becomes the evidence that you weren't following the formula correctly, which in turn proves the formula right.
It's an airtight psychological mechanism. It ensures that the follower has to take absolute 100% responsibility for the outcome, removing any blame from the method itself.
Which, while maybe powerful for motivation, is absolutely poor scientific methodology.
This tension, the fabricated authority versus the real psychological power, demands that we look at the actual source material. To truly appreciate the divergence, we need to move away from Hill's narrative entirely and examine the true path of Andrew Carnegie.
And the contrast is fascinating because the philosophies are often polar opposites. Andrew Carnegie, born in 1835, genuinely embodied the American dream. He started as the bobbin boy in a cotton factory and, through ruthless efficiency, vertical integration, and extraordinary business acumen, built Carnegie Steel.
Which he sold for $300 million.
An absolutely staggering sum, equivalent to over $10 billion today. And he didn't need Hill to tell his story. Carnegie was a highly talented and prolific writer himself. He wrote influential pieces like The Road to Business Success and The Gospel of Wealth. His advice was public, it was detailed, and it was aimed at the ambitious working class.
And his life was defined by something Hill never truly achieved. Genuine self-made success followed by profound philanthropy.
Right. Carnegie gave away over 90% of his fortune, establishing libraries and foundations, based on his belief that he who dies so rich will die disgraced. His philosophy was rooted in ethics, practicality, and common sense.
Okay, let's do the point-by-point contrast, starting with the career path. Hill advised job seekers to skip the bottom rung entirely, but Carnegie had an almost moralistic view of starting low.
Carnegie insisted you must start your business career from the lowest position possible. He argued that the most successful founders were often former clerks and mechanics trained in that sternest but most efficient of all schools, poverty.
You need to go through the ranks, learn every job.
Exactly. You had to understand operations and people from the ground up. This grounding in the school of poverty was essential for him. It instilled humility, required grinding work, and provided the deep institutional knowledge needed to lead a vast enterprise like Carnegie Steel.
And yet, Hill aggressively rejected this idea.
Completely. Hill countered that starting at the bottom is dangerous. He claimed that too many of those who begin at the bottom never manage to lift their heads high enough to be seen by opportunity, so they remain at the bottom. It has a tendency to kill off ambition.
So he advises you to come in with a marketing plan and get a job a level or two higher.
Right, which is a massive strategic divergence. Carnegie demands humility and experiential knowledge. Hill demands audacious confidence and immediate self-promotion.
Okay, so what about the focus of thought? Hill commanded the reader to concentrate their mental energy on money itself, visualizing the dollar amount, feeling the possession of the wealth.
Which is the core of the six-step ritual. Carnegie taught the absolute opposite. He advised that you must concentrate your energy, thought, and capital exclusively upon the business in which you are engaged.
The work itself.
The work itself. The focus should be on improving the product, delivering superior service, solving the market's problem, not the monetary result that follows. Carnegie was famous for his one-basket rule. Put all your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket. He believed profits were a necessary byproduct of superior performance.
So Carnegie essentially said, chase value and money will follow, Hill said. Chase the money and value will magically appear.
A perfect summary. Now, what about the most important quality for success? Hill stressed obsession, a burning, consuming gold, desire to become rich.
And Carnegie?
Carnegie stressed judgment, honesty, good habits, and common sense. He noted that lasting success is impossible without them. He was explicit. No man ever saw a foolish businessman successful. If he is without sound, all-around judgment, he must fail.
That's a huge difference. Hill sells the idea of a mental shortcut, using emotion to bypass judgment. Carnegie sells the idea that judgment is the only reliable asset in a volatile market.
And their views on risk were similarly divergent. Hill advises taking action whether you are ready or not, driven by the subconscious.
Implying this aggressive mental form of risk-taking.
Whereas Carnegie's advice was incredibly conservative, especially for non-business professionals. He warned ministers, college professors, artists to avoid business investments and stock speculation entirely.
Really?
Yeah. He advised them to secure a safe first mortgage on a home, be satisfied with a moderate, predictable interest rate. His own ventures were aggressive, but he always stressed that his decisions were well-researched and strategically calculated, not driven by emotional, burning desire alone.
What's truly striking to me is that the specific universal secret Hill claimed Carnegie revealed, the one where you write down the specific amount of money and read it aloud twice daily, was never mentioned, alluded to, or promoted by Carnegie in any of his extensive writings.
Never. Not once. Carnegie repeatedly referred to the true secret to success as honest work, above-average ability, and relentless concentration on a single field. For Carnegie, the key was simple. Be better than average at what you do and create a truly useful, high-quality product, like steel bridges that stood firm when others collapsed.
So the lie provided the authority, Carnegie's name, that was necessary to package and sell a system of intense mental discipline and persistence that Hill himself was trying to master.
That is the core tension we are left with. A fabricated origin story provided the psychological permission structure for millions to apply a system of self-improvement that, regardless of its spiritual claims, fundamentally demands discipline, planning, and perseverance.
And we have to circle back to those real-world results, because regardless of the dubious origin story, the message itself offers immense value simply by forcing the user into a definite, goal-oriented state of mind.
The psychological framework is the value proposition. When you compel a person to follow those 6 steps, define a goal, set a deadline, commit to a plan, recite it daily, you are immediately forcing a paradigm shift away from passive wishing and into active commitment. That blueprint, when applied, results in a new way of life, as we saw in the recovery testimonials.
And the framework is intensely practical in team-based settings. People use it as a foundational book on sales and team building, especially the mastermind concept. They just ignore the spiritual energy part and focus on the shared goal and harmonious coordination.
Which is the secular interpretation that works. And we see this demand for discipline mirrored in modern self-improvement communities. We looked at some data from online forums like Rigid Discipline, analyzing the behavior of users who stick with their goals versus those who drop off.
And that data directly supports Hill's insistence on the long game, on persistence.
Absolutely. The persistent users, the ones who remain engaged and successfully implement long-term change, they tend to write longer, more complex posts, focusing on systemic, enduring topics like time, routines, habits, studying, education.
They're tackling the root causes of failure that Hill listed, like lack of definite purpose and poor organizational habits.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the non-persistent users are looking for quick fixes. Their posts are often about short, straightforward productivity tips to solve an immediate problem, without the commitment to the systematic mental overhaul that Hill demands.
It's not a quick fix book. It demands tremendous discipline and consistency, which is exactly why the book's followers insist it has to be read multiple times for the principles to soak into your subconscious mind.
And this brings us back to Hill himself. He ultimately validated the power of persistence, not through his ability to build a steel empire, but through his ability to sell his idea for decades. He attributed the success of his work surviving repeated failure, disappointment, discouragement to his own determination, definiteness of purpose, and the desire to attain the goal and the persistent effort of 25 years.
So he used his own methods on himself, for himself, to make Think and Grow Rich a monumental success, irrespective of whether the Carnegie meeting ever happened. The book is, in a way, a demonstration of the power of its own principles.
And that achievement defines his legacy. First published in 1937, right in the depth of the Great Depression, Think and Grow Rich remains an all-time bestseller in the field. It's truly the cornerstone of modern motivational literature.
So where does this leave you, the learner, now holding both the results and the records? You understand the tension. Think and Grow Rich is a powerhouse of psychological principles built on a fabricated historical foundation.
The success stories, the millionaires created, the lives rescued from addiction, are demonstrably real. Yet the foundational figure, Andrew Carnegie, advised a path almost diametrically opposed to Hill's. Focus on the work, on judgment, on honesty, on concentrating all your efforts, not on manifesting the money itself.
What stands out to me the most when we look at Hill's life is the sheer performative genius of the fraud. I mean, if Napoleon Hill never actually met Andrew Carnegie, yet successfully created a book that convinces millions they can manifest wealth through belief, a belief that fundamentally prompts them to be more persistent, decisive, and focused, what does that say about the true mastermind principle?
It raises the final, most profound question. Was Hill's greatest work not a self-help manual revealing a secret formula, but rather a real-world, 25-year demonstration of the power of autosuggestion and imaginative storytelling? He successfully sold an idea for decades, overcoming incredible financial and legal defeats through sheer persistence and definite purpose.
So if the result is that a person adopts the discipline and consistency needed to succeed, does the source of the formula truly matter?
That's the ultimate question of utility versus ethics. and it's a decision only you can make as you pursue your own definite purpose.